for all you do for me and all others. And we are very grateful for that. Happy Mother's Day once again.
Amazing. I joined myself to the wish, right? Because you guys go like, you go very far to bring, and I'm talking about the mothers in Kolebu, for example, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Some of them, deprive themselves of family time.
Exactly.
Just so they can like be by patients, right?
Yeah.
So that's incredible. Doc, today we are looking at hepatitis B.
Yeah.
Right? It's something I've gotten tested for so many times. Or not necessarily tested, vaccinated
Okay,
or
vaccinated,
screening.
yes.
Screening and vaccinated for so many times, right?
Yeah.
And I've been told, don't share your cutleries, especially back in basic school. Don't share your cutlery, don't use someone's bottle, It's a lot.
Yeah, that's
Just
true.
give us an idea, right? For the
Okay.
uninitiated, when we say hepatitis B, what are we referring to?
Looking at, okay. So hepatitis B, it's a virus. So it's a virus called the hepatitis, or Hep B. We usually say, in short, Hep B virus. So it's a virus that is usually transmitted through blood. And then so contaminated blood and some other tissue fluids that are contaminated, or human fluids that have been contaminated. And it affects the hepatocytes. So the hepatocytes are basically the cells that are found within your liver. Okay, so it has affinity for your hepatocytes, where it would cause an infection. First of all, it would attach itself to the cells, and then it will transmit its DNA or its nucleic acid into the hepatocytes or the cells of your liver. And then it can cause changes within the liver cells. So depending, there are times that we say we have acute hepatitis infection and then chronic hepatitis infection. So the acute ones are usually those infections that are easily cleared. So your immunity, once there's a foreign body, more or less, an infection that has entered within the human system, usually you have your immunity, your immune cells coming in to fight that infection. If they're able to fight the infection and then the acute phase is over, then we say that you would have been able to clear the infection. But if not, and then it persists, it means that it's going to go on and then cause inflammation. Aside inflammation, it goes on from inflammation, and then it ends up causing tissue injury, or it injures the cells within that. And then with an incompetent immune system, it means that the infection is going to be there, and there will be tissue injury to the cells, and then there will be some healing, but not full healing, okay? And then that is when it ends up causing destruction to the liver, okay? Chronic over 6 months, or after 6 months, that is when it becomes chronic. And then that can lead to something we call liver cirrhosis, and if you are not fortunate, it can lead to what we call hepatocellular carcinoma, which is the cancer of the liver, which is very difficult.
So that's
to
the
treat.
extreme of it, if not treated. So it attacks or affects, fights your immune system.
Yes. So once it enters into your system, naturally, anything that enters your system, your immunity, you have a natural defenses within you that would mount some defense to come to your aid. But then if it's unable to, your natural defense is unable to take care of it, it means that it will go on into chronicity, and then it will cause all of these distractions we are talking about, the liver cirrhosis, and then the hepatocellular carcinoma. That is the
last time I heard someone talk about autoimmunity, it was an interesting definition, very different from what you are saying, but interesting. Is there a particular age group where this is very prevalent with, right? Because I see a lot of the time it's like testing among younger people. Okay, I've seen testing among elderly people too, but more often than not, I've probably got tested, no, or screened, which is which. I've probably got screened or tested for it much more when I was younger than I've been now.
Yes. So it's important. There are vaccines that are available, and these vaccines you can give it as early in your early life. Okay, so there are two main ways. You can screen for it. So when you screen, you check the blood to see if you have been exposed to the virus or you haven't been exposed to the virus, then you can get the vaccination. So the vaccination, usually you would want to do it for the high-risk group and even others. So high-risk groups are people who even work in the hospitals. But if you are working in the hospital, you are prone to getting into contact with patients' blood. Okay, whether directly or indirectly, you may get that. So those are the high-risk groups that you'd want to vaccinate. Aside that, the general public, yes, you can still go ahead and then do that. And you know that aside blood, you can also get it through semen, so sexually transmitted as well. So then it's important that we look at certain practices that are safe. So some of the practices that are safe is you should make sure that you do not share sharp objects with others. So like razors, some people even, I don't know how true that is, but some people end up sharing toothbrushes and all of that.
You've been kissing me, what's the difference?
Exactly. So
goals.
all of that, yes. So you don't have to share all of these. And then also you should make sure that if you are going for any of these cosmetic things that mostly ladies do, like piercing, getting extra piercings, doing tattoos and all of that, it should be done under sterile conditions such that you don't end up having very unsterile instruments that are used, because that can lead to, it's one of the main ways that you can end up getting infected with the hepatitis virus. Okay, and basically it's very important that we know about it, because the liver is a very important organ in our body. It's a very, very important organ in our body. Once you lose your liver, it becomes very difficult. It's like you're going down. Okay, so the liver does so many things in our body. One of the things that the liver does is that it helps with glycogen storage. Glycogen is basically you storing some of your glucose within the body, so that in times where you are fasting, you'll still be able to maintain good blood sugar levels that will be used for energy, and then other metabolic activities within the body to maintain hemostasis and all of that. The other thing is that it also produces something we call clotting factors. So these clotting factors are the factors that are within your blood, such that when you get a cut, it helps you not lose blood. It helps with clotting. So it helps.
The sore heals faster.
Exactly. So that the bleeding, you don't end up bleeding out, but then you're able to secure that. And then also it helps with emulsification of fat. That is some form of digestion of fats within your system by the production of bile. So it produces bile that is stored in the gallbladder, and then it also helps with emulsification of fat. So it does so many things. It also stores some vitamins within the body. It also detoxifies. It detoxifies most of the things that we take in. Some of them are even the drugs that we take. Okay, if you do leave it within the body, you wouldn't be. So it metabolizes it. It makes it less harmful, so that it can now be excreted by the kidney.
So it's like a filter.
Exactly. So it does so many things for us.
Is sweat
and you can't
another form of transmission?
Sweat.
So I heard that if you touch someone who has hepatitis B and they are sweaty, automatically.
Not necessarily. I would say that from semen to blood, okay, and then once it gets into a cut surface that goes into your system, then yes, you can end up having
that's serious.
What symptoms are we looking out for when you
comes with hepatitis? Okay. So as I mentioned, the liver does so many things, and when the liver is sick, one of the main things that you would see would be that you see some yellowing of the eyes, which we call jaundice. Okay, so that's one of the ways that you can see, because the liver helps with the production of bilirubin, and then that is stored in the system and all of that. So if you end up seeing somebody with yellowish eyes, it's likely that the liver is sick. The other thing is that you may have other constitutive symptoms, like you may end up having fever if it's in the acute phase. You may end up, if it's been chronic for a very long time, you notice that the abdomen will be bulging. So that means that the liver has enlarged. Okay. So you may end up having that enlarged liver. And then there are times that you may not even see some overt symptoms. But then when you go in and then do some labs, it would point to you that there's something really happening within the liver. So by doing a liver function test, you notice that the ASTs and the ALTs, these are liver enzymes, will be elevated. Another way is that when you do an ultrasound, when you do an imaging ultrasound of the liver, you notice that the liver may be enlarged or otherwise. So these are some of the things that you can actually look at it, and then it can point to you that possibly there's something happening. And then also, let's not forget, we're doing a DNA PCR testing for the for the hepatitis virus itself. That's once you're able to isolate, and then you know that yes, definitely this person has an active infection that is ongoing. So these are some of the things that we need to be aware of. And then also it's very important that you screen, especially even pregnant women, so that you can prevent transmission to the child that is being.
Is it curable?
So I wouldn't say that it's curable, in the sense that you can manage it.
Okay.
So first of all, because when you get infected, there's something we call antigens. It produces some antigens, and then you end up having some antibodies within your system. So that's what the vaccination is, basically to help you mimic an infection, such that your body will now produce those antibodies to be able to tackle any of these infections if it should come within your system. Okay. The other thing is that aside these antibodies that you have, if you have a chronic infection, you notice that there are certain antigens when it's tested, you'll be able to tell that this person has an infection. So if you have an infection, yes, definitely you have those antigens, and then you have some antibodies as well. But then the challenge is when it becomes very chronic, such that it is not dormant, it is active, and then it continues to cause problems or changes within the liver cells, such that now you end up having some liver fibrosis, which we call cirrhosis, and then also you end up having, what's the name? It can cause certain metastatic or certain neoplastic changes within the liver, such that it now becomes like cancer, and that is where we don't want to get to. And it's very important because a lot of people they've been told, okay, I have hepatitis infection, and then they go home, and that's it. They do nothing about it. But you need to be monitored very, very closely, so that if any of these changes are happening, it can easily be caught, and then you would be managed accordingly, rather than wait and then do nothing about it, and the next time you come, it's full-blown cancer, and there will be little that you can do to save your liver. So it's important that a lot of people get to know about it, and then we get to vaccinate. We vaccinate against this hepatitis, very, very important, so that we don't end up in the very extremes that we are talking about.
Okay, so what treatments are available once you're diagnosed?
So once you are diagnosed with hepatitis, usually what you do is that you would want to, if it's the acute state, you would want to manage the symptoms.
Okay.
As it's unfolding. You manage the symptoms, and then you monitor. So you are monitoring, as I mentioned, through the labs that we have mentioned. You are monitored through that. If there's an antiviral that you need at any point in time, that would be given. And the other thing is that lifestyle changes, very, very important. You can't have hepatitis B infection and then also keep assaulting your liver with alcohol. You know, you can't do that, because it's like it's a double-edged thing.
So now there's no filter for the alcohol that's coming in.
The alcohol needs to be what's the name, detoxified within the liver, and the liver is already sick, and you are adding insults to injury. You get it. So you need it's important.
What if it's mild alcohol?
Which one is the mild one?
Abstinence, 100% abstinence is what we
mild
need.
alcohol, right? So for example, I saw a drink yesterday that had like 1% alcohol.
It's still alcohol.
And there's also beer, but not non-alcoholic beer.
Fine, once it's non-alcoholic, I don't have
fine.
an issue with it, yes. So
Wow.
you need to be able to protect your liver with the fact that, and then you also need to be screened for other infections, like HIV, like the other hepatitis viruses, like hepatitis C, hepatitis D, hepatitis A. They're all there. So the hepatitis A and then D are usually orophycal. So you get it from, let's say, literally eating feces. So it's from feces that you get that, as opposed to the B and then the C, which is usually when you get it through blood coming into contact with contaminated blood. Okay, so it's very important. And then maintaining one sexual partner, very important.
Very important.
Maintaining a sexual partner, so that you don't infect the partner, or the partner does not infect you. It's very important. If you can't abstain, if you can't be faithful, kindly use a condom. It's very important. The barrier method, you should be able to use a condom so that you don't end up causing infections here and there. And before you know, you may end up having the complicated aspect of it, which is the hepatocellular, and which is very, very nasty. And most of the time, the mortality rates are very high. Mortality rates are very high when it comes to hepatocellular carcinoma. You end up losing weight. So all the signs and symptoms of cancers, loss of weight, cachectic, you end up having metastasis to, or having symptoms depending on where the cancer cells have reached. If it is in your lungs, you end up having symptoms associated with your respiratory system. If it is within the bones, you end up having symptoms associated with the bones. If it's affecting your blood levels, you end up having signs and symptoms of anemia. You get it. So it's a very deadly and very nasty if it gets to that complicated state.
The mothers today manage to steal a couple of our time, right? So that's the sad part, even though we join in celebrating them. But very finally, before you go, are there ways are you walking to the hospital to just do like checkups?
Yes, you can. So all you have to do is you let them know that you want to check for hepatitis infection, and that can be done. It's a rapid test that can be done for you. And if, depending on the result, you'll be advised. If you can take the vaccine is given to you. If it means that maybe you may have an infection, that can be monitored over a period, and you'll be given correct intervals at which you should be monitored throughout, so that you don't end up getting the complicated infection. Yeah.
Dr. Kalsum Zakaria Adam, with a public health advocate, talks about it, and also the Women's
Medical Women Association
of Ghana. It's all, and a maxillofacial surgeon. Yeah. It's always a pleasure having you in studio.
Thank you.
Thank you for the insights and bringing to light the very important